Okay.
The lifeboat.
Yeah. Well, according to Monarch Communications, Paul Serene just activated that thing.
Far sooner than they were supposed to.
What does that mean?
Means we have less time than I hoped.
On the unique nature of the lifeboat, Dr. Stephen Emerald, August 18th, 2016. While the lifeboat protocol is fairly straightforward on the surface, it's important that the people involved with the project understand how it radically differs from other survival scenarios against so-called apocalyptic threats. Stutter-proofing. A traditional bunker built to protect the occupants from an environmental hazard, e.g. a chemical attack or nuclear fallout, is typically sealed airtight, and the occupants have their own electricity, air supply, provisions, etc. The bunker's interior is isolated from the outside environment, but the lifeboat's design is different. It's not actually sealed because it doesn't have to be. It does have strong walls and protected access points, but the outside environment is not the problem. It's the lack of the Meyer-Joyce field that enables time to exist that makes the outside hazardous. From a technological standpoint, these differences make the lifeboat's operating principle quite different, particularly with regards to maintenance. Compared to, say, the failure of the life support system in a hermetically sealed survival space such as a bunker, the failure of the lifeboat's stutter-proofing system has a far more immediate and grave effect. A traditional life support system can be repaired. For instance, a failure in a CO2 scrubber would pose a significant threat, but with replacement parts and tools, properly trained occupants could easily repair the system before they would feel any ill effects. In fact, almost any mechanical failure, short of a full-scale environmental breach, can be fixed as long as suitable repair materials and training personnel are at hand. But by its very nature, the stutter-proofing is different. If it fails, everyone within this area of effect is immediately affected by the zero state and becomes frozen. In a permanent zero-state scenario, that means they would have no opportunities to ever effect repairs. There's literally no time to react. The only exception would be personnel wearing an activated chronon harness, such as the striker suit, but given that repairing the stutter-proofing system is a highly technical, complicated process requiring exceptional proficiency in the operation and engineering of chronon technology, this would be a scenario with a low probability of success. It is therefore the utmost importance that the lifeboat stutter-proofing operates reliably and without faults, with multiple fail-safe systems, because if it ever fails, it is unlikely that it can be repaired or restarted. Accordingly, once the lifeboat protocol has been activated, there's no real way to deactivate it other than removing the chronon field regulator. This would be highly inadvisable, as doing so would not only disrupt the stutter-proofing, but more importantly, without the CFR, the lifeboat's rate of chronon particle consumption is increased by a vast margin, effectively reducing its potential operating time to a fraction of what it is intended. Unique to advantages and risks. However, it's worth pointing out that even though the lifeboat operation has unique hazards, there are also unique advantages. One such advantage is provisions. A traditional survival scenario in a bunker typically involves a poor quality of meals due to obvious resourcing problems. Anything that spoils easily is out of the question. In a zero-state scenario, however, spoilage becomes a non-issue. Anything stored outside the stutter-proofing area remains in perfect condition. This advantage doesn't only apply to comestibles? I've actually never heard that word before. But also make the storage of medicine, volatile chemicals, and other similar artifacts far less of a problem than it otherwise would be. In fact, given the fact that the city of Riverport is vast compared to the relatively small number of people residing in the lifeboat, in theory, Monarch operatives could venture outside the lifeboat in chronon harnesses and actually enjoy freshly cooked meals simply by entering a restaurant and finding the ready-made dishes that have been prepared, remove them from the zero state in a stutter-proof area, and enjoy them as hot and delicious as if they had just been prepared, which in fact they of course would be. To be clear, this is not a recommended activity, as it would be a foolish waste of resources to go after individual meals like that. The above scenarios I mentioned here merely to illustrate the point. Even though the lifeboat has been designed to operate for decades of subjective time, it doesn't actually need provisions for that long. If the lifeboat's own reserves start to run low, a well-planned supply run into the city could easily result in a great deal of perfectly preserved supplies. That's cool. Another advantage is that while the situation outside the lifeboat would be dire, people frozen in the zero state would not actually be dead. If a solution is found to the end of time scenario, everybody would resume their everyday lives, most likely with no awareness of time ever having stopped. However, it's hard to know what the exact psychological impact of that knowledge on lifeboat personnel would be. There's a real concern that the pressure of knowing that they have sole responsibility for the survival of the human race and that there are billions of people outside of the walls of the lifeboat, helpless and unaware, frozen eternally in that last moment, may prove to be crushing for some. On the other hand, knowing that either their loved ones are actually not dead and may be saved and are not in any distress, or indeed even aware of the situation, may prove to be a powerful motivating factor that helps us eventually resolve the situation. Of course, the solution to the problem of a permanent zero state is not currently within our reach, and we expect that finding one will take subjective decades if it isn't indeed possible. We can but try. It's worth noting that since the people outside the lifeboat are indeed not dead, merely stopped, it would be possible for a team of personnel wearing chrono harnesses to exit the lifeboat, retrieve a person, and bring them into the lifeboat. However, I advise against adopting this practice for the occupants. That would forever remain a theoretical scenario. Any situation in which somebody is brought in from the outside would cause undue stress on the occupants, who would at that point have to become acutely aware that their loved ones could be brought in, but since the lifeboat has limited space, this could never be allowed. That kind of psychological pressure would likely lead to friction and questions of favoritism and ultimately increased risk of mission failure. Yeah, I could see that being a problem. Alright, what's this?
Anybody here we can trust?
Fiona. She's my only remaining contact on the inside.
What about this Burke guy? He was under arrest in the same transport as me.
Jury's still out on Burke.
Huh. Head of Monarch, Paul Serene, blah blah blah. Division heads, Martin Hatch, Dr. Emerald, Henry Kim. Key enforcers, Clarence Ogawa, Gibson, Carlos. Potential allies within Monarch, Fiona Miller, William Burke, Charlie Wincott. Dick. Yeah, I don't know if I trust Charlie. Lifeboat document. Memo controlling the Riverport situation from Clarence Ogawa to field team leads. Let me get a sip of water before I start reading this one. Alright. I know the situation is fluid and things are progressing fast, but I want to reiterate our strategy for maintaining control over the city of Riverport. As you all know, we can't actually directly control the city. We don't have the manpower and we don't have the actual authority. It's therefore vital that we maintain a good relationship with the media and the local authorities and have them do much of the heavy lifting for us. Ideally, everything we do should be either undertaken by the authorities under our discreet direction, or in cases where we take action ourselves backed by the powers that be, creating the illusion that Monarch Solutions is working in cooperation with legal authorities. Make no mistake, although we've been successful this far, the situation is not stable and it can change quickly. If key parties in the city lose confidence in us and our ability to handle the crisis, our control will erode very quickly. Therefore, we must nurture this relationship even as we conduct our own operations, some of which involve considerable troop mobilization and combat action. This is a constant balancing act, and while I'm confident we can pull it off, there's no room for error. We can't afford to grow complacent and sloppy. Fortunately, we are well prepared for this contingency. Long before we reached this point, we established a good rapport with the mayor, Riverport PD, and other major authorities within Riverport, as well as most of the important media outlets. Our strategy is twofold. 1. Maintain control. It's imperative that we ensure that the city's various power structures remain under our control. This means maintaining a close relationship with numerous individuals and organizations, as well as manipulating the information at their disposal. While Charlie Wincott is unfortunately no longer working on this project due to unforeseen complications, he has set up powerful tools and procedures for scrubbing the internet and identifying and locating problematic situations and individuals. We're stationing people in key locations and maintaining control, often under the guise of advisors and consultants to people in power. They are ready to step in as required. Anybody working in these roles needs to be proactive and project a constant aura of helpful authority and dependability. Diplomacy is the order of the day, people. That's vital for maintaining certain fictions, such as Jack Joyce's culpability in the events at the university, etc. 2. Minimize conflict. That is to say, make sure that individuals, whether they're politicians, city officials, police officers, reporters, ordinary citizens, etc., suffer a minimal impact from our activities. If we have to use force, the situation needs to take place out of sight and remain entirely contained. Whether containment means misdirection, coercion, intimidation, bribery, or some other means depends on the circumstances, but it's vital that nobody is left in the position to complain. To be explicitly clear, this doesn't mean we can eliminate witnesses and cover it up. When people don't come home, others start to ask questions, so that has to be a last resort. I expect all supervisors to monitor their teams closely to ensure things stay on an even keel. I know most of our operatives haven't been trained in the soft touch, and I'll be blunt. The last thing we need is somebody thinking he is Afghanistan and smacking a civilian around. He is Afghanistan? Or is in? We're on YouTube. Video away from the whole thing blowing up. Oh, we're one YouTube video away from the whole thing blowing up in our faces. So we have to maintain our operational profile throughout. For all of these activities, we have a considerable budget. Monarch Solutions is very well off. We've been building resources for a long time, and this is considered a priority. So we can buy a lot of silence and cooperation from authorities and civilians alike. That only works as long as those things are for sale, and the moment we're seen as a threat, that opportunity will disappear. If you see a problem, be proactive and call it in. Don't let anything run out of control or think it'll work itself out. We have to be sure. The situation can unroll faster than we think. We have to coordinate our activities properly. Any questions or concerns, please contact me sooner rather than later.
Hey, Amy. What am I looking at here?
I've been recording Monarch communications with the radio that Beth left me. I made a compilation of anything that seemed like it might be useful.
Unknown Monarch personnel. HQ, come in. This is First Aid 1. We've got a situation over here at the hospital. Over. Go ahead, First Aid 1. Over. It's a fucking mess down here, HQ. Burke showed up for his wife like we thought. Gibson intercepted him. Burke wouldn't come quietly, so Gibson drew on him, and, well, Gibson's dead. Burke strangled him with a power cord in full sight of half the hospital, so that kind of shit show. Over. Do you have the situation contained? Where's Burke now? Over. We're working the scene and wiped the footage, but Gibson didn't have backup, so who knows how many people saw the fight or where they are now. Same goes for Burke. He's in the wild, so is his wife. Over. Copy that. First Aid 1. We'll run with that on our end. Just tidy things up over there. Over and out. Okay, so we have the TV and talking to her and something. Is that? Through the doors. Okay. Let's watch the TV first.
Okay. The date is... It's February 28th,
Jesus, Will.
1999. William Joyce.
1899.
After months
First experiment.
of arduous work, my machine is finally ready for human testing. Ready is defined by me, since ready is obviously a relative term when you're dealing with the deformation of the chronon field and the recreating of black holes' mass density by tangent. Okay, in short summary, I built a time machine, and it works. I'm gonna prove it, or die. Okay, just need to make some final preparations. When I enter the machine, I will travel clockwise around the corridor. Okay, core is active. Chronon levels are stable. Travel clockwise around the corridor, exiting back into the same location in the near future. Oh. This clock is set to my watch. Now, when I exit the machine, there should be a significant difference in time between my watch and the clock in this room. Corridor is locked in place. Okay, setting the date to 5 minutes to the future for the first test. Now, admittedly, traveling to the past would be much more impressive, but I can't travel backwards in time, only as far as the first activation of the machine's core, which is, well, now. Okay, machine's ready. Monitor is stable. What I'm about to do is gonna change the very fabric of... I don't remember.
What the hell?
Is the city still hunting for me?
In full force. There's an entire webpage dedicated to potential Jack Joyce sightings. So I've been filling it in with false leads for fun. Do you want to pitch in?
Post that I was spotted in the back of a catering van somewhere.
You can do better than that. But okay, I'll let them know.
Just that same one, okay. So, let's go see what this stuff is in the toilet. In the toilets.
No use going there before talking to Dr. Emerald.
Oh, alright. Let's go talk to the doc. Beth?
Was that Paul?
That's how he arrived in the past.
Well, how's that possible? It wasn't even the same time machine he entered at the university.
That's one question I still don't have an answer for.
Huh. That is really weird. Doctor?
How's it look?
The problem is quite simple, really. The power relay is down. You'll need to find a way to reset it up. There, where the light is. I'll lower the ladder for you.
What happened to the power relay?
Power surge occurred at 7 a.m. this morning, when the machine was activated.
7 a.m. That's hours before we even got here.
Well, the numbers don't lie.
Okay, I guess I'm doing some climbing.
Sure. Saves me from volunteering.
Alright. Now can I go into the toilets? I'd like to look at all the stuff before we start triggering new events. Potentially missing the opportunity to do so. Alright. The giraffe. Can I interact with it?
You
There we
got to be kidding me.
What is it?
This is all my stuff from our family home. Kept everything.
Guess you thought you might come back. Is that...
Yep. Will's personal psychiatrist. Want to give it a try?
I think that giraffe's holding enough baggage. Jack? You okay?
Yeah. What's wrong?
Toto.
Toto?
That's my signature.
You made this?
I've never even been here before.
That woman in the picture is you, isn't it? So...
Jack. There's something you should know. 1999. I was 8 years old, playing in my backyard, and a woman approached me, told me she was from the future. She gave me very specific details of events that would come to pass. She gave me this. Filled with dates, events, proof of it all. Jack, that woman,
it was you.
everything I told myself would happen, did. Every detail, for better or worse, came to pass, and couldn't be changed. Our fate is laid out before us, Jack. Everything that happened to get us here, every sacrifice that was made, they're all a part of this path. And they can't be changed or undone.
Beth,
When we step in that time machine, you will see for yourself.
all right.
Okay.
If you're that sure about how all this works, we can try it your way.
Must be on the other side of the wall.
It's her. She's the one who's been painting all over the city. Jesus.
Wow. That explains a lot, actually. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, take a moment to hit that like button. If you haven't done so already, subscribe and hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date with all the new videos. As always, I enjoy and appreciate your comments, and if you could share my channel and videos on social media and across the internet, it would help, as it is your support that keeps this channel going. So, until next time everyone, as always, please, stay safe out there.